you've drifted into some weird knockoff version of the Twilight Zone. What is going on, guys? So today we're back with another deep dive, and today we're actually going to be going over the last deep dive for this week, which I was really hoping would be a ghost type, but it is not. But that's a-okay, because today we're actually going to be talking about Lapras, who is a Water and Ice type Pokemon, maxing out at 2641. 0 on attack, 10 on defense, 14 on stamina at level 22. Will yield a 1498. We are 6th in bulk, 4th in stat product, with a 165 on attack, 174 on defense, and 277 in stamina, which is pretty freaking amazing to already start off with. That's a really crazy package. We've talked plenty about Lapras in the past, which is why this is kind of like going to be a rather quick one. Specifically in the Timeless Cup, we do have a few options available to us when it comes to moves. So in terms of fast moves, we do have Frost Breath, Ice Shard, and Water Gun. Then we do also have in the charge move areas Dragon Pulse, Ice Beam, Blizzard, Hydro Pump, Surf, Skull Bash, Frustration, and Return. Holy cow. Holy cow. Some notable things really fast is I made a spreadsheet for this because there are way too many of these charge moves to kind of go through. So if you're interested in checking that out, I will put a link to that in the description for you somewhere. If I don't, first person to comment on that gets a kiss. You have to fly all the way to my house and hang out with me, but I will definitely kiss you on the cheek. Promise. What you'll learn if you actually look through this spreadsheet is I didn't actually take all of the movesets into consideration because there are some pretty easy ones to eliminate. So basically we can eliminate Return, we can eliminate Frustration. They're not gonna help us out a ton in our situation here. We are super bulky. We already have Surf, which does extremely well. It does way better than both of those, plus it's got stab benefits, so it just makes a lot of sense. Those are pretty much gone from the get-go. Dragon Pulse is kind of a wild card. I do think that you could potentially get some decent mileage if you use Dragon Pulse. You could definitely go toe-to-toe with some of the other dragons, especially Kingdra's the one that kind of sticks out the most for us. So I think you could definitely run that, but it didn't have like the highest numbers, so I just kind of left it out of the spreadsheet. After that, we do have Ice Beam, which is interesting, but it is also okay. It's not amazing. In terms of the fast moves, Frost Breath is very underwhelming in terms of energy. Water Gun is kind of like the next best thing. And then Ice Shard is actually the last one. And honestly, this all started with, wow, should I run Ice Shard or should I run Water Gun? Honestly, that's kind of why I made the spreadsheet. So definitely go check that out. The short version of it is, though, basically Ice Shard, Blizzard, and Surf, oddly enough, perform the best, which was kind of surprising to me. Notable mentions here, Skull Bash does really well. I definitely think that depending on what kind of coverage you need, if you can get away with just having Skull Bash as a normal type move, you are going to do really cool. It's going to do really good, but you do have to kind of be wary of like the ghost types that you could run into, like Banette and Haunter and stuff like that. But otherwise, it does really freaking amazing. Hydro Pump is also a really big contender. It could do pretty good, considering that it and Blizzard both have basically the exact same stats. We do get stab off of both of them. If you were to like go with Ice Shard, you already do have Surf, but maybe you want another water type move to help with coverage and also to be able to like pack a lot of punch. I definitely think that Hydro Pump could be an option for you. But just in general, if you look through the spreadsheet, you can kind of figure out Ice Shard, Blizzard, and Surf actually do put up the best numbers. So we are going to go with that for the rest of this video. And with that, we're actually going to move into our shielding scenarios, which up against the entire cup, we actually do pull up with a 67.7%, which is huge. In the 2 versus 0, we do actually have a 95.3%, so a pretty big start already. 0 versus 2, we do kind of fall short with only a 7.8. I was hoping for at least a 10%, but it does get better, just wait. In the 2 versus 2, we do have a 65.1, which is I mean, everything you could ask for. It's more than 50%. I guess you could ask for 100%, but you'd kind of be a little greedy at that point. Moving over to the meta side of things, this is where it gets very interesting. We do actually run into a 66.7% with the 0 versus 0, an 89.7 in the 1 versus 1, and then a whopping 25.6 in the 0 versus 1, which is insane. That is so good. And lastly, in the 1 versus 1, we do end up with a 64.1. We are basically keeping the exact same kind of statistics whenever we move over to the meta from the entire cup. But in that 0 versus 1, in the shield down kind of scenario, we do so much better up against the meta. There's not as many like wild cards out there that could end up catching us. But what that actually means is that you do kind of have to be scared of maybe some off meta, like weird picks that you may encounter, like some grass types that are kind of weird, or maybe an electric type that gets thrown out or something, maybe. Just some kind of odds and ends kind of stuff that may catch Lapras off guard. Speaking of that 1 versus 1, we did have a 64.1%. Let's actually tear that apart and look at all of the Pokemon that we actually win and lose up against. Starting with our wins though. We do have wins up against Typhlosion, Castform in its snowy form, Wormadam in its plant form, very interesting, Venusaur, Shelgon, Glalie, Charizard, Flygon, Drapion with Ice Fang, Frostlass, Dustox, Whiscash, Drapion with Infestation, Kingdra, Sceptile, Dragonair, Skuntank, Swampert, Quagsire, Beedrill, Muck, Torkoal, Venomoth, Ninetales, and Blastoise to finish it off. Holy cow, that is a ton of Pokemon. Moving on to our losses, we do actually tie up against Banette and Castform in its Sunny form. Those should actually be up in the top right hand corner of the screen here. Then we do actually have Ivysaur as our first flat out loss. Celio, Blossom, Meganium, Haunter, Victreebel, Lapras. In itself, yes, the PV Poke moveset that they choose for Lapras is actually going to be able to do a lot better than the typical Ice Shard, Blizzard, and Surf. So we do actually forfeit the mirror in that scenario, but if we were basically going to tie with it anyways, wouldn't you rather kind of have a higher win percentage overall? We do have Castform in its rainy form as well, Lantern, Gloom, Ludicolo, and Blaziken actually rounding out the last bit of our losses. Here was kind of the weird part. Since we do actually have only a few losses, it was kind of hard to make some categories, but I did squeeze out a couple of them here. One of the big noticeable ones that you'll see is the grass types. Things like Ivysaur, Meganium, Ludicolo all do really well up against us here. And I do think that you could get away with using any kind of poison type Pokemon to really help mitigate some of those grass type threats. Things like Beedrill, Muck, or Skuntank could do wonders for you if you don't want to have to go with like a fire type starter. If you just for whatever reason chose a fire type starter, you basically already have the grass type covered. But just in case you do prefer maybe a grass type or a water type starter, you could definitely choose poison types here. Our next little kind of category is water, sort of. So it's weird that we lose up against some of the water types here, but I think it really stems from the fact that we really are relying on an ice type move to be like our first initial impression of damage, and it doesn't do amazing, especially up against the water types. But then on top of that, we really are relying heavily on Surf, but if we want extra damage, we could rely on Blizzard. So it kind of sets us up to be in a really weird position where the water types actually can kind of give us some trouble here. Things like Celio, Lantern, and even Castform in its rainy form do give us a ton of trouble, so we kind of have to watch out for those. One of the better things that I think could actually help out with those is pretty typical here, the grass types. Things like Ivysaur, Gloom, Victreebel, and possibly Quagsire. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I threw Quagsire into this little section because of the last little section that we have, which is less of a section and just more of one particular Pokemon. Talking about Blaziken, our last big threat. It's really weird, but I think he kind of falls into the same scenario of he's basically not going to have any kind of super effective damage coming at him right out of the gate because we are utilizing Ice Shard. And it just really makes it into an awkward position. He does have counter, which is actually going to be super effective up against us. So one of the things that I think could actually help out a lot with Blaziken though is because we know he's basically going to be utilizing counter, that's like really what he's good at. A ghost type would actually do really well. Snake Lapras here. Basically something like Haunter, Banette. We did talk a little bit about Spiritomb in a couple of days ago, and I think that's an okay option. Not the best option, but okay. So that is actually going to be it for Lapras. Pretty standard run-of-the-mill. Lapras has been looked at a billion times, at least on this channel. And he's pretty much the bulk master. We always will know him as that. He does amazing against what he's really good at. And he even takes quite a few hits at things that he's not super good at. So he's still amazing. I still prefer Celio. Shoot me. I'm sorry. I just do. I've always loved Celio. Celio is #1 to me. He is my fave. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. Always remember that if you want to help dictate what the next deep dive is going to be, you can jump down into the Discord, which is going to be linked down in the description below. Don't also forget to check out that spreadsheet if you want to. But basically, that is it. That's actually it for this week. Next week we do have another full week of deep dives. I think we have a couple more weeks full of deep dives before we get our next cup announcement, but it actually is going to come up rather soon. We are getting ready to hit the 1st of December. Thank you guys so much. Hope you guys have had a wonderful Thanksgiving. That was yesterday. If you're viewing this today on the day that it releases, hopefully you got some decent Black Friday deals. If not, I hope you didn't camp out and miss out for no reason. Either way though, that is actually going to be it. Thank you guys again. I will see you in the next deep dive. And scene. Thank you guys so much for watching. Always remember that if you like to like videos, you could do that, but if you don't, you could be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in the comments below about the video. I do highly appreciate you guys watching. If you guys want to support me in any way, there are several links down in the description for Patreon, joining the community here on YouTube, or even just directly PayPal if that's your thing. I greatly appreciate everyone's name that's on screen, as you guys have showed some sort of support outside of just viewing the videos, and I thank you guys. You don't understand from the bottom of my heart. So until our next video, guys, I will catch you then.